Folks, this is the most compelling game of the first round. Miami at Texas A&M. A&M coming in as a 4-point favorite. I think this is especially compelling because both of these teams are capable of doing really great things in January. I think outside of Ohio State, you could put Miami in there as the most talented roster in college football. I think you can put Texas A&M in that discussion as well. So, what's going to determine this game? A matchup that I want everyone to keep their eye on is the Texas A&M offensive line against the Miami defensive line. This is so interesting to me because this is the literal definition of best on best. Texas A&M returned all these starters coming back. That O-line is filled with All-Americans. Ahmad Reed Adams. You talk about Bitsonis, Trey Zune. All those guys are going to be playing on Sundays. Miami has got one of the best, maybe the best front seven in the country. So I've got something here. This stat is very interesting. Marcel Reed, in play action this year, has completed 73% of his passes, is averaging 11 yards per pass attempt. He has 17 touchdowns through the air and 1 interception. Marcel Reed, in a non-play action setting, so straight drop back, no run threat, is completing 56% of his passes, 8 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions this year. Night and day production. Miami, their front seven is allowing just 2.9 yards per carry. You know that's the 7th lowest in the entire FBS. A&M as a team is averaging 5 yards per carry. That's amongst the best in the entire Power 4. If you want to know how good this Miami front seven is, go back and watch them against Notre Dame. Look at Jeremiah Love's stats for that game, and that tells you everything. So Miami has shut down the best of the best. So what does all this tell you? If A&M's offensive line keeps doing what they've been doing all year, making holes, hauling, hitting their blocks, Texas A&M's going to win this game. If Miami's front seven keeps doing what they've been doing all year, wreaking havoc, getting to the quarterback, closing gaps and run lanes, Miami is going to win this football game. One of those things has to break. This is why we watch college football, folks. This is NFL guys against NFL guys. This is the best of the best in the trenches. One of those is going to break, and whoever does will lose this game. Another thing as well, Le'Veon Moss's health is going to be huge because of everything that I mentioned. Le'Veon Moss got his ankle messed up against UTSA a while back. A&M, these last couple weeks, you can see they've lacked that second gear that they had at the beginning of the season, that they showed against Notre Dame especially. Against Texas, they were down pretty much that whole game, ended up losing by double digits. They didn't have that second gear that we were seeing at the beginning of the year from them. It looks like he's going to play, but that's going to be something to watch. Also, this Miami defensive line can really get to the quarterback. They're averaging 3 sacks per game. Okay, that's the 6th most in the FBS. They're really high in pressure rate as well. Why do I mention that? Listen to this. Marcel Reed, in a clean pocket this year, is completing 68% of his attempts. Okay, he's averaging 9.4 yards per pass attempt. Marcel Reed under pressure is completing 39% of his passes, 6 yards per pass attempt. Again, night and day production from a clean pocket compared to when he's under duress. The reason why I mention this is because this yet again shows how good this A&M offensive line is. Marcel Reed has been under pressure on just 27% of his dropbacks. That's the 133rd most in the FBS. So if this A&M O-line moves, and if they do what they've been doing all year in pass pro, and Miami doesn't get to the quarterback, this A&M offense is going to dice out Miami. But if this Miami defensive line keeps doing what they've been doing all year on third down, it'll be a long day for Texas A&M. We'll just say that. So what's the deciding factor? Because this one's kind of a tough one to predict. It's interesting to see how both teams have looked towards the end of the season. Miami has clearly figured something out these last 4 weeks. They're outscoring opponents, I have it right here, 151-41. And then you look at their losses, right? SMU, more first downs, 159 to 23 in rushing yards. Wow. They lost that game because they had 2 turnovers and SMU didn't. They lost to Louisville because they turned the ball over 4 times and Louisville didn't turn the ball over. So it's Miami hasn't lost a game this year because they've been clearly the inferior team. They've lost games because Carson Beck has had random games where you're like, what was he doing the night before? Texas A&M maybe should have lost to South Carolina. They lost to Texas by double digits, and they've kind of been limbering their way there to that 11-1 record towards the end of the season. And man, they could easily be 7-5 right now. Texas A&M, like, beat Arkansas by 3. I mentioned South Carolina. Beat Auburn by 6. Beat Notre Dame. Lost to Texas. All of those games, all those 1 games that I mentioned were determined by just 1 possession. And I get it. A&M played the tougher schedule for sure. But Miami's 2 plays away from being unbeaten, man. Texas A&M is only a few plays away from being in the ReliaQuest Bowl. All right? That's definitely something to take note. And Miami's issues have never been beating the great competition. They beat Notre Dame early in the season, as did A&M. Miami's issues have been beating the teams that they should. The Louisvilles of the world, the SMUs of the world. Even look last year with Syracuse, them messing around with Cal and with Virginia Tech, right? They don't have to worry about those guys in the college football playoff. And the reason why I go with Miami is because I think they figured something out towards the end of the season. They've been blowing out opponents. A decent Pitt team, too. They beat the brakes off of them. I think for Miami, this defensive line is something that A&M has never seen before in terms of just its caliber. Remember, A&M has, for the most part, played the bottom of the SEC outside of Texas, right? And Notre Dame's D-line is really good, but I don't know if it's this level. Reuben Bain might be the first guy taken off the NFL draft. Almanor as well. This Miami defensive line is big and physical, and I think it's going to give A&M problems. And Miami is going to go into Kyle Field and win this game 31-24.